Elias Wren had learned that silence meant different things to different species. On the diplomatic station Lyra's Reach, silence could mean respect, fear, boredom, or calculation. Most aliens filled it with color, sound, or light. Humans, Elias noticed, were often the only ones comfortable letting it stay. That was why he noticed her. She was positioned near the far observation window, away from the main gathering hall. While other delegates moved, floated, or pulsed with energy, she remained still. Not stiff, not frozen, just carefully supported. A delicate frame of translucent rings surrounded her body, holding her in gentle balance. Thin streams of light flowed through the rings, adjusting constantly, as if keeping her from falling in a direction that did not exist. She was small compared to most of her people. Her body looked like polished crystal shaped into something almost human, but softer, fragile in a way Elias could feel in his chest. Light passed through her skin and broke into quiet colors, like sunlight through glass. Princess Scifi of the Kellen Union. Elias knew the name because everyone else avoided saying it. She was disabled. No one used the word aloud, of course. They used phrases like medically complex or non-functional variants. Some simply pretended she was not there. Others offered polite nods and quickly turned away, as if proximity might make the discomfort contagious. Elias was not important enough to ignore protocol, but he was also not important enough to be watched closely. He was a junior envoy, assigned mostly to observation and note-keeping. That gave him time to notice things others missed. Like how Princess Scifi watched the room. Not with her eyes, those were closed most of the time. But with something else. The lights around her frame shifted when someone laughed. Her support rings tightened slightly when voices rose. She was listening in a way that did not need sound. Elias stood near a refreshment unit, pretending to examine a display of nutrient crystals. While thinking, he had brought a gift. It was not official. It was not listed. It was not approved. It sat in his pocket now, small and warm from his hand. On Earth, his grandfather had once told him that the best gifts were not useful. Useful things reminded people of need. Meaningless things reminded them of choice. Elias did not know if alien princesses felt the same. He took a breath and walked toward her. The closer he got, the quieter the space felt. Not empty, focused. The hum of the station seemed to soften, as if it too was listening.
When he stopped a respectful distance away, the light patterns around Scifi shifted.
One of her eyes opened slowly, glowing pale blue. It did not look directly at him, but he knew she was aware of his presence. "Princess Scifi," Elias said gently, keeping his voice low. "I am Elias Wren, from Earth." The translator node on his collar pulsed, but she did not respond right away. Then her voice came, soft and layered, like several tones speaking together. "I know what you are," she said. "You are the quiet one who watches." Elias blinked. "I suppose that's fair." A faint ripple of light moved through her body. He realized it was laughter, or her version of it. "You may speak," she said. "Most do not." He hesitated. "I don't want to disturb you." "You are not," she replied. "You are different from disturbance." That felt like permission. "I brought something," Elias said. "It's small and simple." "You don't have to accept it." The lights in her frame shifted again, slower this time. "Curious, a gift without obligation?" she asked. "Yes," Elias said. "Just a gift." He reached into his pocket and took it out. It was a small wooden box, no bigger than his palm. The surface was scratched in places, the corners slightly uneven. A thin metal key stuck out of one side. Several nearby delegates glanced over, interest flickering briefly before fading. Compared to quantum relics and living crystals, the object was laughably primitive. Elias held it carefully, as if it might break from judgment alone. "This is from my home," he said. It makes music. You have to turn the key. Saili's support frame extended a thin, glowing filament toward the box. It stopped just short of touching it. Music, she repeated. We do not make such things. That's okay, Elias said. You don't have to understand it.
I don't understand half the things here. Another ripple of soft light passed through her.
May I? She asked. Yes. The filament touched the box. The moment it did, the station lights flickered. Not sharply, not alarmingly. Just enough for Elias to notice. The music box began to play. The tune was old. Simple, a melody his grandfather used to hum when words felt too heavy. Thin metal notes rang out, uneven but warm, echoing softly in the open hall. Around them, conversation slowed. Saeli's body reacted instantly. The light within her brightened, then steadied. The support rings adjusted in new patterns, slower, more confident. For the first time since Elias had seen her, her posture changed, not physically, but emotionally, in a way he could feel. Her other eye opened. Color spread through her form like dawn. What is this doing to me? She whispered. Not afraid, but astonished. It's just music, Elias said, suddenly unsure.
It's meant to be comforting.
Her filament traced the edge of the box, trembling slightly. No, she said. It is not just music. It is intention made gentle. The translator hesitated, then rendered the words as best it could. I have never been given something without purpose, she continued. Without expectation. Elias swallowed. I didn't want you to feel like a problem to be solved. Silence fell again, deeper this time. Saili closed her eyes. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then she spoke. I have been studied, she said. Stabilized. Preserved. I have never been chosen. The word echoed strangely in the air. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. I'm sorry. Do not be, she replied. But you have already changed something. The music slowed as the mechanism wound down, the final note lingering. Saili's eyes opened, glowing brighter than before. She turned her face toward Elias fully now. I will always be with you, she said. The words were simple. The meaning was not. Elias froze. Princess, I didn't. It is not a burden, she said gently, sensing his panic. It is a promise around them. Unseen systems reacted. Probability models shifted. Station sensors recorded anomalies they could not explain. Elias only felt the moment.
I don't know what that means, he admitted. Neither do I, Saili said.
But I know it is true. The support frame hummed softly, no longer correcting, only accompanying. Somewhere deep in the station's core, an alert quietly logged itself and waited. And Elias Wren, human envoy, stood holding an empty music box, unaware that a single small gift had just bent the future slightly out of shape. Elias did not sleep that cycle. The station lights dimmed as scheduled, artificial night spreading across Lyra's reach, but his mind refused to slow. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the thin, imperfect melody of the music box and saw the way Princess Saili's light had changed when it played. I will always be with you. The words did not feel like a threat. They did not feel like a request. They felt like something already decided. Elias sat on the edge of his narrow sleeping berth, staring at his hands. They looked the same as always. No glowing marks, no strange symbols, just human hands that had held a small wooden box. And yet something felt different. Not inside his body, exactly. More like the space around him had become aware. He stood and walked slowly across the room. The station hummed quietly. the sound of distant systems breathing together. As he reached for the wall panel to request water, he paused. He felt a softness then. A presence. Not a voice, not a thought.
A feeling of attention. Elias swallowed.
"Princess Sally?" he said softly, feeling foolish. The feeling did not disappear. Instead, it warmed, like light passing through thin glass. "Oh," Elias whispered. "Okay. That's new." He did not panic. He was not sure why. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the way she had spoken. Calm and certain, as if fear had never been invited. He sat back down. "I don't know how this works," he said quietly. "But I'm not upset." The feeling shifted, gentler now, like relief. Elias let out a slow breath. Somewhere deep inside him, something settled. The next cycle, the station, was not quiet. Whispers moved faster than official reports. Scientists from 3 species requested access to Princess Sayili's medical data. Diplomatic aides pretended not to stare. Systems analysts reviewed sensor logs again and again, confused by minor but impossible readings. Sayili herself had changed. Her support frame no longer made constant micro-adjustments. The lights within it glowed steadily instead of flickering. For the first time in her life, she had slept without sedatives. Her attendants did not know what to do. When Elias entered the observation chamber later that day, 2 Kalan officials stiffened. Their bodies refracted light sharply, a sign of controlled alarm.
"You should not be here," one said politely.
Sayali spoke before Elias could answer. "He should," she said. The officials hesitated.
"He is not authorized." "He is," Sayali replied, her tone calm but unmovable. "I authorize him." They stepped aside.
Elias walked closer, feeling the now familiar sense of awareness grow clearer. It was strongest near her, like standing near a quiet star. "You look brighter," Elias said. Sayeli's light shifted in what he now recognized as a smile.
"I feel quieter," she said. "The pain does not echo as loudly."
One of the attendants stiffened. "Princess, your condition has not been cured." "I did not say it was," Sayili replied gently. "I said it is different." She turned her attention fully to Elias. "When you are calm," she said, "my systems stabilize." Elias blinked. "That doesn't seem fair. Fairness is not part of biology," she said. "But it is part of choice." Medical teams tried to test the bond. They measured Sayili's neural activity while Elias stood nearby. Then they asked him to leave. The readings dropped. They asked him to return. The readings rose again. Distance mattered. Emotion mattered more. When Elias grew anxious under the pressure of attention, Sayeli's light dimmed slightly. When he relaxed, it brightened. The conclusion was impossible, but the data did not care. "She is resonating with him," one scientist said quietly.
"That ability was abandoned," another replied. "It was too unstable, or too intimate," a third added.
Sayeli listened to all of it without comment. Later, when the room was empty except for Elias and her attendants at a respectful distance, she spoke. "My people fear this bond," she said. "They believe it will weaken me." Elias frowned. "Does it?" "No," she said. "It reminds me that I exist outside my condition." Elias did not know how to respond to that, so he told her about Earth instead. He spoke of oceans that never stayed the same shape, of wind that could not be predicted, of music played badly but with feeling, of people who made mistakes and kept going anyway. Sayili listened with full attention. "Your species accepts inconsistency," she said. "We don't have much choice," Elias replied with a small smile. She was quiet for a long moment. "My people tried to remove inconsistency," she said.
That is how I became this. The word carried no bitterness, just fact.
You're not broken, Elias said before thinking. The room froze. Saili's attendants reacted instantly, light flaring in shock. Elias flushed.
I'm sorry. It is acceptable, Scieli said.
More than acceptable. Her light deepened, spreading in slow waves. No one has ever said that to me without pity, she continued. You did not sound like pity. Elias looked down at his hands again.
It's just true. Something shifted then, deep and subtle, like a lock turning somewhere unseen. Across the station, an AI flagged a probability curve bending again.
The bond strengthened. Elias began to feel small things, not thoughts, not memories, sensations. The station light seemed sharper when Scieli focused. Sounds felt softer when she rested. Once, when a nearby system malfunctioned and startled Elias, Scieli's support frame flared instinctively, as if to protect him. I felt that, she said softly afterward. Your fear. That's not great, Elias said.
It is human, she replied. You do not hide it. Others notice changes too.
Diplomatic meetings that usually dragged on for cycles ended faster when Scieli attended with Elias nearby. Tensions eased without explanation. Disagreements softened. No one could explain why conversations felt easier in the room, but Elias and Scieli could. When you speak, she told him once, you believe understanding is possible. Isn't it? Elias asked. Many species do not, she said. The realization spread quietly. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the oldest. They were not the most advanced. But they bonded without needing permission. That frightened some delegates. One evening, as Elias prepared to leave the chamber, Scieli spoke again.
You are afraid, she said. Elias hesitated.
A little. Of me. Of what this means, he admitted. For you. For me, Scieli considered this. I chose the bond, she said, not because you are human, because you saw me. She paused, and because you did not try to fix me. Elias felt the truth of that settle into him. I don't know what happens next, he said. Neither do I, she replied. But you are no longer alone in wondering. As Elias left, the awareness followed him, light and steady. Somewhere beyond the station's hull, stars continued their slow movement, unaware that something small and human had begun to change how the galaxy understood connection. And this time, the future leaned just a little closer. Elias began to understand that the bond did not sleep. It rested, the way breathing rested between breaths, but it never truly stopped. Even when he focused on routine work, filing reports or translating minor cultural notes, there was always a quiet awareness beside his thoughts, not intrusive, not demanding, just present. Scieli. Sometimes the awareness felt like warmth. Other times it felt like a calm stillness, the kind that came after a long day when nothing more was expected of him. Elias had never realized how loud his own mind usually was, until it softened. He did not tell anyone about the nights, about how he would wake suddenly and feel a gentle sense of disorientation that was not his own, about how, when he sat up and slowed his breathing, the sensation eased, as if someone far away had found balance again. The doctors noticed, though. Princess Scieli's medical scans showed patterns that should not exist. Her neural signals were no longer isolated. They behaved like part of a larger system, one that did not fully reside within her body. They argued quietly, away from her hearing. This is dependency, one specialist said. No, another replied. This is regulation. It is unsustainable, a third insisted. What happens when the human leaves? No one had an answer. Elias was invited to fewer meetings and more discussions. Informal ones, private ones, the kind that pretended not to be interrogations. You did not intend this, a senior diplomat said. studying him closely. No, Elias replied honestly. But you would not undo it. Elias met her gaze. No, the diplomat sighed.
That is very human of you. It was said without insult, without praise.
Just observation. Scifi began attending more public sessions. Boyera, her presence changed the tone of every room. Not because she spoke often, but because when she did, others listened. Her words were slow and careful, shaped by someone who had learned that speaking cost energy. Elias usually stood nearby, not as an escort, but as a reference point. He did not speak unless asked. He did not move unless necessary. The bond adjusted around them like a shared rhythm. One session focused on future accessibility standards for multi-species stations. Normally, it would have dissolved into argument over cost and priority. This time, it did not. Saile spoke once. You design environments for ideal bodies, she said. But life is variation. No one interrupted her. Elias felt a gentle pressure then. Not pain, but focus. She was asking him something without words. He spoke.
On Earth, he said, we learned that when you design for the edges, everyone benefits. Ramps help more than wheelchairs.
Clear language helps more than translation software. Kindness costs less than redesign. There was silence, then agreement. Later, alone with Saeli, Elias frowned.
I didn't plan to say that.
You meant it, she replied. That's not the same thing. It is, she said softly.
Humans often mean things before they plan them. The bond deepened in small ways. Elias began to sense when Saeli was tired before she said anything. He would slow his movements, lower his voice, ground himself. Her systems responded almost instantly. Saeli, in turn, began to sense when Elias felt overwhelmed, even when he smiled through it. She did not comment. She simply stayed present, her awareness steadying his. Neither of them tried to control it. That was why it worked. Not everyone was comfortable. A delegation from a distant collective species requested formal review. Their spokesperson did not hide their concern.
This bond sets precedent, they said. Emotional influence is a form of power.
Seale answered calmly.
So is fear,
She said.
The review board demanded distance testing.
For safety, they said. Elias was asked to move to a different ring of the station for one full cycle. The moment the separation began, both of them felt it. Not pain. Absence, like a sound that had always been there suddenly stopping. Saeli's light dimmed, not dangerously, but noticeably. Elias found it harder to focus, his thoughts drifting, his chest tight for no clear reason. They endured it, because they had to. Data poured in. The bond weakened with distance but did not break. Emotional state mattered more than meters. When Elias calmed himself deliberately, Saeli's readings improved, even across sections. The scientists were unsettled.
This should not be possible, one whispered. It is, another replied. We are simply seeing it. By the end of the cycle, the board ended the test early.
The cost is unnecessary, they declared. Elias returned to Saeli's chamber.
The moment he stepped inside, the awareness rushed back into place like something that had been holding its breath.
Saeli's light flared, then steadied. You came back, she said.
I wasn't going anywhere, Elias replied quietly.
She considered him.
Some of my people believe I am becoming less Kellen,
she said. And what do you think? Elias asked. I think, she said slowly, that I am becoming more myself. That was the moment the bond changed again. Not stronger. Clearer. Elias began to understand Saeli's perceptions not as sensations, but as patterns. She did not experience the world in moments, but in connections. She felt relationships like lines of light, some stable, some strained, some broken. Humans, she realized, lived in a constant state of emotional noise, but also constant repair. You forgive easily, she said once. We forget easily, Elias replied. That too, she agreed. News spread beyond the station. Other species took notice, not of Elias specifically, but of what had happened around him. Humans were suddenly requested for mediation roles, not because they were neutral, but because they were involved. They cared. That unsettled the old power structures. One evening, Elias stood by the observation window where he had first seen Scifi. Stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass. You could leave, he said quietly.
You don't owe anyone anything.
I know, Scifi replied. But you won't.
No, she said.
Because this matters.
She paused.
Do you regret the gift? She asked. Elias thought of the music box, now kept safely in her chamber, played often, its melody slightly warped with time.
No, he said. Do you? I regret that I did not receive such a thing sooner, she replied.
The station AI logged another anomaly. Not a warning. A shift. Across the Alliance, small changes followed. Design standards updated. Language softened. Delegates began asking not just what others could do, but how they felt. No one announced it as policy. It simply happened. And at the center of it was still a human and an alien princess, connected not by force or technology, but by something no one had planned for. Attention, presence, choice. Somewhere, far beyond Lyra's reach, larger decisions were being made. Movements were starting, reactions forming. But for now, Elias and Scifi stood quietly, looking at the stars, unaware that the galaxy had begun to lean toward them, not in fear, but in hope. And the bond held. If you want, I can continue with part 4, where the bond is tested by separation on a much larger scale, and the galaxy must decide what humanity truly represents. Just say, part 4 Lyco. That was how it usually happened. Information moved faster than understanding, and bureaucracy moved faster than kindness. He was called into a small conference room, walls dim and neutral, designed to make everyone feel equal and no one feel comfortable. 3 representatives waited for him, each from a different major alliance group. Their expressions were carefully controlled.
This is not a punishment, one of them said.
Elias nodded. It never is. Another folded their hands.
The Alliance has agreed that Princess Scifi must return to Kellen Prime. Elias felt the bond react instantly. Not pain.
Alarm? For how long? He asked. Indefinitely. The room felt smaller. She is a political symbol, the representative continued. Her condition, her visibility, and now her connection to you. Her presence here influences too much. Elias took a slow breath. He focused, grounding himself the way he had learned to do, not just for his own sake. For safety, the third added. For stability. For control, Elias said quietly. No one corrected him.
She will be informed shortly, the first said. You are not authorized to interfere. Elias stood.
I won't interfere. That surprised them. I'll talk to her, he added.
That did not. When Elias entered Scifi's chamber, she already knew. Not because someone had told her. Because he felt different. You are preparing to leave, she said calmly. I am, Elias replied. So are you. The lights within her support frame dimmed slightly, then steadied. They believe distance will restore balance, she said.
Do you think it will?
Elias asked. No, she replied. But they are afraid of what they do not understand. Elias moved closer, stopping where he always did. He did not touch her. He never had. The bond did not need that.
They're sending you home,
he said.
Kellen Prime. She was quiet for a long moment. My world is designed for perfection, she said.
It has little patience for variance.
Elias felt the weight of that word settle heavily. I don't want this to hurt you, he said.
It will, she replied gently, but pain is not always damage.
The separation was scheduled carefully. No drama, no ceremony. Sayeli was placed within a long-range transport field, her support systems reinforced. Elias was not allowed to accompany her beyond the docking ring. They stood facing each other, the space between them suddenly vast. I meant what I said, Sayeli told him.
I will always be with you, Elias swallowed. I know. The transport field activated.
The moment she vanished from sight, the bond stretched, not snapping, stretching. Elias staggered slightly, catching himself on the wall. His chest felt hollow, like something essential had stepped just out of reach. Across the stars, Sayeli experienced something similar. Not fear, not panic, distance. It was like losing a sense she had only just discovered. The first days were the hardest. Elias struggled to focus. Simple tasks took effort. He smiled when spoken to, answered when asked, but something fundamental felt muted. Sayeli's condition fluctuated. Her support systems compensated, but the calm stability she had gained faded. Doctors adjusted settings.
Advisors debated. The bond is weakening, one said.
It should, another replied. This is natural. But it did not weaken the way they expected. It adapted. Elias learned to reach inward, not outward. When he slowed his breathing, when he steadied his thoughts, he felt a faint echo of response. A soft alignment. Far away. Sayeli learned to do the same. Across light years, they learned to meet in stillness. Weeks passed. The Alliance expected the effects to fade. They did not. Instead, something unexpected happened. Humans across multiple stations began showing similar, smaller resonances with other species. Not bonds, like Elias and Sayeli's, but moments of alignment. Comfort without words, understanding without shared language. Nothing dramatic. Just nothing. Connection. Researchers were confused.
This should not be replicable, one said.
It's not, another replied slowly. It's relational. The implication unsettled many. Back on Kellen Prime, Sayeli addressed her counsel. She did not argue. She did not plead. She simply described what she had experienced. For my entire life, she said, I was treated as a system to be managed, a flaw to be compensated for. I was never asked who I was when I was not being adjusted. The council listened in silence. The human did not fix me, she continued. He did not heal me. He did not improve me. Light rippled through her form, steady and clear. He stayed. That word carried more weight than any accusation. Some council members shifted uncomfortably. Others listened more closely. On Lyra's reach, Elias was reassigned, not removed. Redirected. He became a consultant, not official, not powerful. Just present in rooms where communication kept failing. He did not bring solutions. He asked questions.
How does this feel? What do you need? Not what do you want?
What happens if no one wins? Strangely, progress followed. One evening, months after the separation, Elias felt the bond shift again. Clearer. Closer. He stopped walking, hand against the corridor wall, eyes closed. You're stronger, he whispered. Across the stars, Sayeli felt it too.
Yes, she replied within the shared quiet. I am learning to carry myself, and I'm learning how not to disappear, Elias answered. The Alliance finally acknowledged what could not be erased.
The bond had not weakened with distance. It had matured. A formal request was sent to Elias. He was asked to travel to Kellen Prime, not as an envoy, as a guest. The journey took weeks. Time enough for doubt to creep in. What if the presence felt different? What if distance had changed what they were to each other? When Elias finally stepped onto Highland Prime, The air felt precise, controlled, designed. Scifi waited for him in a garden of perfect symmetry. For the first time since they met, she stood without her full support frame. Smaller stabilizers hovered nearby, but she was upright, balanced by choice and effort. Elias stopped several steps away, afraid to overwhelm her. She looked at him and smiled, not with light, with certainty. "You came," she said. "I told you," Elias replied softly. "I wasn't going anywhere." The bond settled into place like something returning home, not louder, not brighter. Just right. Observers watched from a distance, recording nothing they could quantify, but they felt it. Two beings changed by separation, choosing connection. Again, the galaxy took note, not with alarms, with curiosity. And for the first time, the Alliance wondered if humanity's greatest contribution was not technology, or strategy, or survival, but the simple, dangerous idea that no one should have to exist alone. If you want, I can write part 5, the final part, where the long-term future of this bond reshapes the galaxy. At first, the visit was meant to be symbolic, a human presence, brief and contained, to show goodwill, and then quietly leave. But days passed, and no one asked him to go. The council observed. The scientists measured. The attendants watched Scifi more closely than ever. And Scifi changed. Not suddenly, not dramatically. She became steady. The garden where they met became their shared space. It was designed for perfect balance, smooth paths, carefully shaped, light-controlled air movement. At first, Scifi needed support fields active at all times. Elias stayed close, not touching, but present, his attention calm and deliberate. Each day, the supports lowered slightly. Each day, she stood a little longer on her own. "It is not because of you alone," she told him once, sensing his concern. "It is because I am no longer spending all my energy proving I deserve to exist." Elias did not argue. He understood that kind of exhaustion. They talked often, sometimes with words, sometimes without. The bond no longer surprised him. It felt like a quiet agreement between two people who trusted each other not to disappear. News from the Alliance reached Kellen Prime slowly, filtered and careful. But even here, change was impossible to ignore. Joint stations began redesigning their spaces, not just for efficiency, but for comfort. Communication protocols were rewritten to allow pauses, silence, uncertainty. Human advisors were requested, not as leaders, but as companions in discussion. It unsettled the old order. "Humans are not neutral," one official complained.
"They become involved." "Yes." Another replied, "That is the point." On Kellen Prime, the council invited Elias to observe a session.
Not participate, just watch. Scifi addressed them from a central platform, her posture relaxed, her light steady without constant correction. "For generations," she said, "we believed independence meant isolation, that needing others was weakness." She paused, allowing the silence to remain. "I am not less whole because I am connected," she continued. "I am more defined." Some council members resisted. Others listened. None could deny what they saw. Scifi was not cured. She was not transformed into something else. She was simply present, fully. Later, alone in the garden, Elias asked the question he had been holding for weeks. "What happens now?" he said. Scifi considered the stars visible through the transparent sky dome. "Now," she said, "we let this be what it is." "That doesn't sound like a plan," Elias said with a faint smile. "It is a human one," she replied.
Elias laughed softly. The bond warmed.
He stayed because no one asked him to leave. He stayed because Scifi did not ask him to stay. Choice mattered. Over time, visitors came, not crowds, individuals. delegates who wanted to understand what had changed, scientists who wanted data and left with questions instead, leaders who expected influence and found reflection. They all noticed the same thing. When Elias and Scifi were in the same space, people spoke more honestly, not kinder, always, but clearer. Arguments still happened, disagreements remained, but they ended differently. Months passed. The Alliance formally recognized relational mediation as a diplomatic practice. No single species claimed it. Humans were not placed in charge.
But their approach spread. You don't solve people, Elias told one group, quietly.
You stay with them long enough that they solve themselves. Not everyone liked that. Some found it inefficient. Others found it frightening. Because it meant power could not be forced. One evening, Elias stood alone, watching Scifi walk slowly along the garden path. Her support field's minimal now. She moved carefully, but confidently.
You could go home, she said without turning. I know, Elias replied.
You miss it sometimes. Will you leave? Elias thought about Earth, about oceans and noise and the familiar chaos of humanity.
I don't feel like I'm done here, he said honestly.
Scifi nodded.
Neither do I. The bond did not trap them. It reminded them they were allowed to choose again each day.
Years later, historians would struggle to name the moment when things truly changed. Some pointed to the music box, others to the first separation. Others still to the quiet council session on Kellen Prime. But the truth was less dramatic. It was a pattern of small decisions. A human noticing someone overlooked. An alien choosing connection over fear. Two beings refusing to treat each other as problems. Elias eventually did return to Earth, for a time. Scifi did not follow. She did not need to. The bond remained, not as constant awareness anymore, but as a steady channel they could open when needed, like a familiar path, worn smooth with trust. On Earth, Elias worked with accessibility councils, interspecies design teams, education groups. He never claimed credit. This isn't about us, he said whenever asked. It's about how we show up. Scifi became a voice for her people, not because she was perfect, but because she was honest. She spoke openly about limits, about pain, about dependence without shame. Her people listened, slowly, carefully. The galaxy did not become peaceful. It did not become united. But it became more aware, and awareness changed how conflicts were approached, how differences were handled, how silence was treated, not as emptiness, but as space. One day, long after the music box's tune had softened with age, Elias received a message. No official seal, no priority code, just a simple line. I am walking today without support. I wanted you to know. Elias smiled, eyes wet, and sent back his reply. I am sitting by the ocean.
It's loud. I think you'd like it.
I would, came the answer. Someday. The bond did not promise forever in the way stories often did. It promised presence, and that, the galaxy learned, was enough. In later years, children across many worlds were taught a small piece of shared history, not as legend, not as myth, as reminder that the greatest strength humanity brought to the stars was not fire or speed or invention. It was the dangerous, gentle habit of seeing someone as they were and choosing to stay, all because of a small gift and a promise kept.